As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Dylan here. I'm back. I apologize for missing a couple weeks now here at this point, and I was doing some traveling, had my 30th birthday, went to Vegas, went to when we were young, had a good time. So while I am sorry I didn't get around to doing any of these episodes, it was for a good reason for me. But, of course, the 2 weeks I go without doing the episodes are our worst week. So maybe that's a good thing. I didn't get an episode in here. However, all the picks were still on the website. So if you were checking that out, you had those available there to tail. We just did not have the actual podcast out. So if you did tail, I apologize. Was not a good week at all for the model, for myself. It was pretty damn rough. So let me just get into that a little bit here. So week 7, we did make a profit, 0.65 units overall. Was not good for the model. The model ended up going, let's see here. Model went 2-7 on the bets. And maybe even more concerning is it went 2-11 on the winners. But we had some wild upsets here as well. I only went 5-8 on the winners. We had the Patriots beat Buffalo. We had the Bears beat Vegas. Washington, that's not really that big of an upset. Atlanta beating Tampa Bay. Baltimore blowing out Detroit. I know they were the favorite, but I don't think anyone expected that. Denver beating Green Bay. That was, kind of a coin toss, but Green Bay was the favorite. Philly beating Miami. I thought Miami could do it, but Miami is kind of proving that when they face a decently tough opponent, they are not able to play up to expectations, which is a little worrisome for them moving forward, especially if they hit, well, not if, I'm pretty sure they're going to make playoffs. And then Minnesota beating San Francisco. So a lot of wild upsets there in week 7 that we did not capitalize on. Week 8, technically worse in terms of profit loss, and that is what matters. We lost 5.75 units in week 8. I went 10-6 on picking the winners. The models went 9-7 on picking the winners, but who cares? That's not what we bet on. We're not betting on who we think is going to win, and if you follow the show, you know why. We bet according to perceived edges. And with that, the model only went 5-9. So a 35.7% hit rate in week 8. Still, a decent amount of upsets. Carolina beating Houston. That was embarrassing. What else do we have here as an upset? Not a ton of them were really that much worse. Bengals beating San Francisco. That is an upset. San Francisco on the downturn here, but they trade for Chase Young. Maybe that turns things around. I don't really think the problem is their defense, but we'll see what happens here moving forward. They get the bye week, and I think they can get things right. It's just something always happens with San Francisco. I believe I said this in the first episode of the season where I was going over-unders and in playoffs and everything for those bets. It's just San Francisco always seems to look so good and unbeatable, and then they fall apart near the end, typically in playoffs. So I don't know what happens there, but it seems to happen all the time. Changes here in Vegas with the firing of McDaniel, their offensive coordinator, and their general manager. So clean sweep here. I don't think that necessarily means things are going to get better. I don't necessarily think that means things are going to really change much at all. But we'll see what happens going forward. Keep an eye on that team. They play... Who do they play this week? They play the Giants at home. So I would still expect the Giants to win this one. I would expect that either way, even if it was still McDaniels. So both ways here, I don't really see Vegas having an easier time. Maybe a happier time. Maybe all the fans and more importantly, the players are like, okay, sigh of relief. We don't have to deal with that guy anymore. But I do not expect things to really get much better. With all that said, when we were like 3-4 weeks into the season, I was feeling weird about our overall return on investment. We were at like 40-50% ROI, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't happen. And I did call out that we are going to come back to earth, and we have over the past, weeks 4 through 6, and probably including 7, we kind of flattened out, and then week 8, we actually had a pretty big loss. So we are still up, thankfully, and we're playing for the long term. We're up 13.13% ROI. That is 32.55 units. My ROI is 17.05. The models has drastically decreased to 7.21%. So let's see if we can get that fixed, get that moved back in the right direction. So let's hop into it. Thursday Night Football, I get my hometown team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking on the Tennessee Titans with their new hotness, Will Levis, coming in to, I almost called it Heinz Field. That's not what it is anymore. Acrisure Stadium, whatever that stupid name is. Not a tough place to play. I'm sorry. Not an easy place to play for anyone. Mike Tomlin going up against a rookie. Only one start under his belt. Was it even a start? I think Malik actually got some snaps here as well. I'm not sure. That's something to think about. But it will be Will Levis getting the start here, as it should be. Currently, Pittsburgh favored by 3 points here at home. An over-under of just 37, which makes a lot of sense with the way Pittsburgh has been playing, and now Tennessee coming in here with a rookie quarterback. Man, we discussed how if the over-under is like 38 or below, it's almost a 70% hit rate for the under. So that is likely where I'm going to go. I know that is so counterintuitive, but that has actually worked out decently well the past few times we've had to do that. So if we look back, what was the last one? The Jets against the Giants last week. The over-under was set at 35.5. That under hit. If we go to let's see if we get another one here. Giants Washington. Maybe there's a trend here with the Giants. It was under 37.5. Atlanta Tampa Bay under 37. So when Vegas is predicting these low over-under games, they tend to hit the under. Cleveland, San Francisco. I think this is actually the week we looked at that trend. The line was set at 36. It hit exactly 36. So I lean towards the under here. I know that is super counterintuitive. You're like, oh yeah, they can hit that. But then you take a look at how the Steelers have been playing, and you're like, oh, maybe that's not great. The Titans have actually put up an okay amount of points. 28 last week, 16 in the two before that. Steelers, not so much. 10, 24, 17. So I do expect this to be pretty low scoring and not a real fun game to watch. I, of course, will be taking my home team here with the Steelers. The spread at -3, I'm pretty okay with taking that as well. The thing is, after 30 years of watching the Steelers, I come to know what to expect. Most of that time was under Mike Tomlin, so that's probably really what I'm talking about. We play down to our opponents. We always have. I think the Penguins do that as well, and the Pirates just suck in general, so we won't even talk about them. But it's just a Pittsburgh thing to play down to our opponents, and we get our ass kicked. So I would not be surprised if we lose here. So with that said, my personal biased bet is going to be on the Steelers. I got to take my boys. However, the model, completely unbiased, is going to be betting on the Titans money line at plus 140. It gives them a 7.741% edge. The model actually has the Steelers barely favored to win in terms of win probability at 50.592%. So only 0.592% chance to win here, according to the model. But hey, it still predicts them to win, but it is finding an edge with the Titans money line. So that's the bet we'll be taking. Don't be surprised to see a hedge on my side here on the Steelers. You don't have to follow that if you don't want. Another thing to remember, the model only takes into account the previous handful of games, and they're weighted differently depending on how recent. So while the model doesn't specifically know that their starting quarterback Ryan Tannehill is out, it doesn't care. It doesn't know nor care. It is all based on just numbers, statistics, yards, points, penalties, interceptions, any turnover, actually. So that is what it is basing on. Just something to keep in mind here for how things work under the hood. So model taking the Titans at plus 140 to win Thursday night against the Steelers. Next matchup, we have a early game in Germany. The 6-2 Miami Dolphins take on the 6-2 Kansas City Chiefs. What a game to give the German fans to get them into football. Man, that's really going to be a good one. Kansas City currently favored to win at 1.5. Over under of 51. Kansas City got upset last week. Completely embarrassing the way they lost. But here we are. And the model does not only find an edge in the money line for Miami at plus 115, it is also giving them the win with a 59.517% win probability. Now, going back to what I said at the beginning of this episode, where when the Dolphins have had to play against a tougher opponent, they haven't been able to do it very well. So that is my concern here with the Dolphins. I think this is going to be a super fun game to watch. And sadly, you can't use this game in your DFS lineups because it's off the slate being over in Germany. Otherwise, I think everyone would be hammering this game with their stacks. With that said, I slightly side with Kansas City. Obviously, I'm not going to completely bet against the model. You might see a hedge. This also might just be one I let play out and I just enjoy from afar. Man, it should be a shootout. I would imagine Kansas City is pretty upset with the loss that they just suffered last week to fucking Denver, which is just embarrassing in every way, shape, and form. So I would think Andy Reid and the crew come out hot, looking to redeem themselves as the dominant AFC team that they are. So I personally lean more towards Kansas City to win this game, but the model is finding an edge with Miami. So that is where the bet will be. Over under at 51. We kind of saw this as well with the Dolphins matchups in the past. You know, when they played Philly, their over-under was set at 52 and 48 points were scored. So pretty close. But they just kind of expect such a high output from Miami that the line is always going to be set super high. So does that always happen? I don't know. We'll find out. So 51 over-under. Kansas City has put up 9, 31, 19, and 27. The Dolphins have put up 31, 17, 42, and 31. So those were mostly against lesser teams. The only one and the only loss in that stretch was against Philadelphia, who does have a solid defense. Kansas City's defense is really no joke either. They're pretty damn good as well. So I lean towards the under with this matchup. Am I confident enough to bet on it? That kind of remains to be seen. Again, keep an eye on our website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com/bets, and that is where you will see all of our bets that are locked in for the week. Next matchup here, Minnesota taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams 4-4. Atlanta is 4-point home favorites. Over under at 37. So again, the trend says to go for the under. That is very likely what we will do here. The Vikings, I don't know if Dobbs will be starting this week. It might be a short week for him to start, but he did get traded. So unsure exactly who they play here. Keep an eye on that. It may end up being the rookie. I forget his name. Oh, can I flip this? How do I flip this? There we go. Hall. Jaron Hall. It may very well be him. Either way, the over-under, the under is looking pretty good. You know, short week, new team. Dobbs can probably learn that playbook pretty quickly, but can he learn it in less than a week? I don't know. So want to keep an eye out on the model. Again, model has no idea that Kirk is out for the season, so it will take a week or two for it to really capture the data that Miami is putting up and start making predictions that way. But for the time being, and it more than okay to skip this bet because of those variables that the model does not take into account. But the model will be betting on Minnesota at plus 175, and you can tell it is surprised by that because it is giving an edge of 48.523%, which is huge. That's a massive edge. So the model, using data from the previous handful of games, you know, when they beat Green Bay, they beat San Francisco, they beat Chicago. Not super high scoring games, but good enough games statistically when compared to taking on the Falcons. That's why it's giving it such an edge. And time has shown us that a switch up at quarterback changes everything. There's a reason quarterback is acknowledged as the most important position in not just in football, but in all of sports. You can hear that comparison. Obviously, there's arguments all over the place. It could be goalie for hockey and soccer. You know, sure, make whatever argument you want to make. The point is, it is up there for conversation. This, again, may be one you want to skip out on. But the model, picking the Vikings here at plus 175, giving the Vikings a 84.89% win probability. Arizona, I don't think Kyler will be playing here. Maybe next week. But Arizona at 1-7. Wow, shit. I did not realize they only had one win. And it was a great win, too, against Dallas. I completely forgot about that. Well, that's not great because I have the over on Arizona getting over 3.5 wins. So that's not looking good. Maybe things will change when Kyler comes back. But this matchup, I'm surprised the over-under isn't lower, honestly. With how good Cleveland's defense has been and how bad both offenses have been. Because now it's going to be led by P.J. Walker, and if it's not Kyler, it is probably... who the hell is it going to be? They also have a rookie. Why can't I... Hold up. I'm going to get this. Don't worry. Our lads. Speed. Typing with one hand. But if it is a rookie, either way, the under is a slam, in my opinion. So the quarterback, Clayton Tune. Yep, rookie, 5th round pick. Doesn't look great. The Browns are 8-point. Wow. 8-point home favorites here. I kind of lean on taking Arizona points just because low over under there isn't an expected a wide range of expected outcomes if they're only expecting that low of points. So I tend to go with the dog in those low over under situations. Again, keep an eye on our website for the model. The model will be taking the Browns. However, it will not be taking the bet because the Browns are minus 360 on the money line, and we don't take anything less than minus 200. So while the model has an edge, those odds are not to our liking, so there will be no bet from the model on this matchup. Los Angeles Rams may be without Matthew Stafford here, but they will be taking on the Green Bay Packers. Packers 3-point home favorites somehow, even after the mess of games that they've had here on this 4-game losing streak. Man, not great for them, but I think Vegas obviously knows the Stafford situation. The model, however, does not know that situation. So again, the model is taking a bet here. This may yet be another one you sit on just until we can capture that data. The model is not taking the Rams, actually. Okay, so the model is going to be taking Green Bay at minus 155, giving them a 9.322% edge, 70.11% win probability. So interesting there. Obviously, the Rams hurting. They're kind of like San Francisco. Maybe that whole division is just in trouble except for Seattle. Packers do get the home field advantage, if that's even really still a thing. I have my doubts about it statistically, if that's a thing, but we can say it is. Over under at 38.5, really a slew of games here with super low over unders, and this might be another one that I just take the under because both teams haven't looked great. The Rams have looked okay, but now they might lose Stafford. That just changes everything. So I will be interested to see what ends up happening here. Gave you the models pick. I don't think I'm confident enough to take either team here with the spread, but again, we have a picks page on the website as well, and that's where, if I'm forced to choose one, that is what I would choose. And what I'm leaning towards here is the Rams at +3. Usually when I don't know what to do and it's basically a coin flip, a field goal win here, I tend to go for the underdog. But again, I likely won't be taking an actual bet on this game. Washington Commanders, led by Sam Howell, will take on the New England Patriots. Patriots minus 3-point home favorites, over under of 41 points. This is one I'm actually kind of interested in the over. I don't get many of those anymore, but Sam Howell has really been doing some work, putting up points, actually passing the ball. They get rid of likely their best player on the defense, so maybe New England can actually put up some points as well. Remains to be seen. The model even has them pretty dead even, at least in terms of edge. The model is giving the Patriots a 60.37% win probability and a slight edge of 0.696% at minus 148. So the model taking the Patriots here. I probably agree with that. Patriots at home, I know it hasn't been great for them in the stretch of this season. Belichick and all of his underlings really just having a rough go at it. But again, I really just always have a tough time betting against them. So if I'm taking a bet here, it will likely be for the Patriots to cover the spread. Chicago 2-6 taking on the 4-4 Saints. Bagnett. I can't say his last name. The guy who's replacing Justin Fields will still likely be replacing Justin Fields this week against a tough Saints defense. I picked them up in like just about all of my fantasy leagues because you expect a smackdown here, at least defensively. Offensively, Derek Carr sucks butt. He's always been bad. I never understood the hype with him. He's just not good. Never is. However, I love that he's checking the ball down to Alvin Kamara, and I have him in a full PPR league. That's been great. Over-under set at 41. Saints, 8.5-point home favorites. I'm not touching that at all. The over-under, I lean towards the under. I don't think either team is great. The Bears put up 13 last week, 30, and then 13 again. The Saints have put up 38, 24, 13. So Saints can score, I guess, but can the Bears score? That's really the question here, and I don't think they can. So I lean towards the under with that one. The model will be taking. Why can't I find the game? What the hell? There we go. The model has a 16.793% edge for the Bears at plus 320. So this hasn't worked out great so far betting on the Bears, but hey, let's get it going. We take these risks for the reward, and we'll see what happens here. They do have the Saints predicted to win at 59.398% win probability. Bird matchup. 5-2 Seattle Seahawks taking on the 6-2 Baltimore Ravens. The game is in Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens are 6-point home favorites. Over-under set at 44. I kind of lean towards the over there. I think both teams will be able to score. Both teams looking really good so far. This would be an interesting matchup in the Super Bowl. I don't know if either of them make it, but it would still be a pretty fun matchup just because it's so different. Baltimore, pretty hefty money line here. So if the model does have them winning, if the model does have an edge for Baltimore, it will not be taking them bet wise, and that is the case here. 89.143% win probability, 17.715% edge for Baltimore. However, the odds are at minus 250, and we're not taking anything less than minus 200. Next matchup here, Tampa Bay taking on Houston. Houston favored here at home by 2.5 points. Over-under set at 40 points. Again, it might be another over here. No. You know what? No, I don't think so. Texans put up 13, 20, 19 in their last three. That's not great. Buccaneers 18, 13, and 6 in their last three. Tampa Bay looked good to start the season, and then it just stopped. That's Baker Mayfield for you. So yet another quarterback I just cannot stand. It's all those commercials, all those Hulu commercials. That's what did them in. So with that said, the model will be taking Houston to win at 67.5% win probability, and it also found an 8.315% edge for Houston at minus 145. I tend to agree with that. I tend to side on Houston to cover as well. The over-under, I'm not confident enough to take, so I will likely be leaving that one off my betting board. 3-5 Colts take on the 1-6 Panthers. Panthers coming off their first win against Houston. They are 2.5-point home dogs. Over-under set at 44. Betting the under for the Colts has not worked out well this year. You know, they tend to have a low point total in all of their matchups, and they just put up points. I don't know what it is. Minshew Mania back again, just stacking up points. They put up 27, 38, and 20 in their last three. The Panthers have, 15, 21, 24 in their last three, so they can get there. Am I confident enough? Probably not, but it's still a fun thought. The model will be taking the favorite here in the Colts, 5.375% edge at minus 132. Giants in Las Vegas. Las Vegas with the change in coaching and GM. They come out as a favorite, which shocks me. 1.5 home favorite, over under of 37. So I've said it 3 or 4 times already this episode. I lean towards the under when Vegas has it that low. However, I disagree with them being the favorites here. I think I lean towards the Giants quite a bit, and the model agrees with me. The model giving the Giants only a 47. I'm sorry, I was reading the implied probability. Model giving the Giants a 91.435% win probability in a massive edge of 43.816% at plus 110. So yes, I'm with the model here. I do not agree that the Raiders should be the favorite here. I just don't. I think Daniel Jones is coming back. The Raiders have looked putrid. I don't think, I said it at the beginning of the episode, I don't think they much changes here with the change in coaching staff. So I know they almost beat the Jets, but it's also the Jets and Zach Wilson. So again, I do not have that faith in the Raiders to get it done here. Finally, some more exciting matchups. Cowboys at 5-2 take on their division rival Philadelphia Eagles at 7-1. Philly, 3-point home favorites. CeeDee Lamb looked unstoppable last week. I was very happy to have him in fantasy in a couple leagues. Finally, took a little bit, but we got there. Over-under set at just 47. Two pretty good defenses going against each other, but also two pretty solid offenses. So it could be back and forth. It could also just be a super defensive matchup. You never really know with these division rivals. I tend to side with the under when teams play their division mates. That's because they know each other so well. They can game plan very accordingly. The model has Dallas picked to win at 62.106% and a pretty decent edge at 21.784% at plus 148 on the money line. Obviously, last week's statistics coming into play here when the Cowboys just beat the absolute dirt out of the Rams. So maybe a little bit too much stock put into that game, but they still look fantastic. And hopefully they realize that they should continue on that path. McCarthy obviously has been saying forever that he wants to run the ball. Obviously, that's not the best move for your team, bud. So that is where we're at. The model taking the Cowboys. It's hard to bet against Philly in general. Obviously, they only have that one loss. This might be just one I sit back and enjoy. Insanely close matchup. This division is scary. One of these two teams are probably making it to the Super Bowl. Same can be said about these two teams. The 5-3 Bills take on the 4-3 Bengals. Bengals coming back, looking good. Joe Burrow, leg looks fine. He seems to be back, and they are actually favored in this matchup at minus 2-point home favorites. Over under a 49.5. I have been enjoying taking the under whenever, you think of these two teams, you're like, oh man, there's points galore. It's going to go back and forth. Doesn't always happen. These high over-unders, I tend to lean towards the mean, which generally is between like 42 and 47-ish points. So that's where I lean. So I believe I'll be taking the under here. I think I also take Cincinnati to cover the 2-point spread. The model, riding the Bengals as well, 78.201% win probability and a 22.646% edge at minus 125 for the Bengals. I lean that direction too. The Bills haven't been super impressive. You would have expected them to blow out Tampa Bay. They almost lost that game. They were 10-point favorites. They did lose against the Patriots. Again, these divisional matchups, like we talked with Dallas and Philly, it's always way tougher than one may think. They were 7.5-point favorites in that game, and they lost. They were 16-point favorites against the Giants, and while they won by 5 points, 14-9. That was the worst game I've ever watched. At least it feels like it. I can't remember a worse game. So tend to lean towards the under here, and the Bills are starting to get sloppy, while the Bengals are on the complete opposite trajectory. So I'm all in on the Bengals here. Our final matchup of the week, Monday Night Football, the disappointing 3-4 Chargers. I always give them such props and hope, and I like them as a team. I like Herbert, and like Allen, I like Eckler. It's just a whole array of players that I enjoy watching, but they have just been disappointing. They go to New York to take on the Jets. Jets 3.5-point home dogs, over under of just 40 points. It's sad. The model has the Jets to win at 55.866%, 18.13% edge at plus 165. So they are riding with the home dogs, and I can't blame the model on that one. Statistically, it makes sense. The Chargers just haven't looked good, but again, they've played some tough teams. They did look good against the Bears, because everyone does. They put up 30 against them. They couldn't do much against Kansas City, and they kept pace with Dallas, which is pretty impressive. They just have had some tough breaks and have really been disappointing. And now Josh Palmer showing up on the injury report. They might lose yet another wide receiver. So it's a late game. We'll see if he recovers in time for that. I think it sounds like he's trending towards playing, but he might be a little hobbled. That will be the last game of the week. Be sure to check us out on our website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com. You can follow all of our official bets there. The model also has an action network. It is just SWTN_model. That is where you will find all of the model's bets. But our site really is the best place to look, because it has the model bets and my bets. You can also track our win-loss progress, our profit loss, our return on investment, to see how we're performing, because we want to perform for you guys. We really want to make everybody money, and that's what we're here to do. Let's get it back this week, and I'll talk to you all next time. DFS lineup on the TikTok as well, coming before kickoff. All right, thanks everyone. We will see you next time.